This is an article by Vicky Blake of Eurogamer.net. Nintendo is rumored to be considering bringing a range of canceled 3DS games to Nintendo Switch, including, but not limited to, a previously canceled Fire Emblem game. In an interview with Kinda Funny, former Game Informer editor Imran Khan spoke at length about what he'd learned about Nintendo's plan, including details about the recent shuttering of Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey developer. What a game title, man. That's a long title. That's too many words. The developer of that game, Alpha Dream, after it just sold 11,000 copies in its debut month. As a result of the RPG's lukewarm sales, Nintendo reportedly scaled back other 3DS plans, including several games that were already mid-development, such as Style Savvy and a reportedly unannounced Fire Emblem. I know, this is a quote here, I know there was another Fire Emblem remake in the works for 3DS, and that was one of the things that they shuttered, Khan said. So maybe that's one of the things that they'll bring forward in the future. On its own, of course, this rumor is precisely that, a rumor and nothing more. The salt shakers, guys. However, just a few days ago, Wall Street Journal reporter Takashi Mochizuki made a similar claim, telling Twitter Nintendo said company would make more 3DS franchises available on Switch to convey appeal of light. There's certainly every incentive for Nintendo to capitalize on the Switch. Of course, we recently Switch Lite was off to a good start, selling 1.95 million units worldwide in its first 11 days. That's pretty good. The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening sold 3.13 million copies during the same short time frame, whilst Fire Emblem 3 Houses sold an impressive 2.29 million since its launch at the end of July. Super Mario Maker has reportedly shifted 3.93 million since the end of June. That's the end of the article here. But really, it makes sense. If they canceled a game on the one, it's not really even like the first time they've transitioned development from one console to another either. Like there's games that have started development on one thing, and then just as the next console comes out, they shift that development forward. And the 3DS, as much as it pains many people to hear it, is on its last legs, guys. The 3DS is really, what was the last big 3DS release that came out? Metroid? Maybe that was what
Metroid Luigi's Mansion remake.
Yeah,
but
that was Luigi's Mansion.
Metroid Samus Returns. I think it was
Metroid.
Both of those were remakes,
actually, yeah,
right? So
it got its own 3DS as well.
Yeah, true. Which I wanted.
There's nice, a funny story. Joey Ferris, for those who don't know. I remember looking on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or something, and he posted a picture. It's like, oh, I didn't even know this was coming, and it was just like a big package from Nintendo. And I was like, oh my god, he got that in the mail. So then I just ran out to my mailbox to look to see if I got it, because we were both being sponsored by Nintendo at the time. I didn't get it. So I was super sad. I was like,
you get that walk of shame back inside.
Yeah, I was like, maybe if I wasn't so focused on Zelda and like casually talked about Metroid sometimes, maybe it would have happened. But
thank God there wasn't a Goron near you that day.
Yeah, he would have punched you to death.
I'm just saying.
Exactly. So that did you get all that article?
Yeah. But yeah, no, the 3DS, it had just as Aaron or just as folks are saying in the chat here, and George saying, like the 3DS had a long life. It had a good run. It's time to put it to rest, and it only makes sense for canceled game to just move over to the Switch, because the Switch is, some people might say the Switch is doing pretty okay on the market right now. You might say it's doing all right.
Yeah. There is one thing with the 3DS and the Switch that I want to mention that a lot of people... Do you remember the infamous 3DS Zelda rumor of... we joked about it. People that listen to the podcast...
The bridge?
Yeah, the bridge. People on the podcast, or people that are familiar with the podcast, know that we joked around with the rumor of the Link's Awakening remake, or the A Link Between Worlds inspired Link's Awakening remake that people were making, which Daniel says, just a bridge, because it was, Link's Awakening takes place on an island, and then A Link Between Worlds was the type of remake that it was supposed to be. So people were calling it like A Link Between Islands and stuff, and I'm like, well, that's a bridge. If it's a link between islands, that's just a bridge. So that's the joke that we made. But it kind of goes along with this, because the rumor for a long time was that it was a remake for the 3DS, and then a lot of people think that they just brought it over to the Nintendo Switch from the 3DS, which kind of would have been impossible based. Yeah, it's good that it's for the Switch, but it would kind of be impossible for it to have started out on the 3DS unless they completely switched engines sometime in development, because it's on Unreal Engine 4. And everyone's been begging for, like, they see all of these fan remakes on YouTube where it's like, oh, Zelda Ocarina of Time in Unreal Engine 4. And people get super excited about it, and it's like, well, we now have an official Zelda game in Unreal Engine 4. Like, video game engines don't work the way people think they work. That, like, just because it's in Unreal Engine 4 doesn't mean that it's going to look like the YouTube videos, because now, like, you know, the engine can make it look any way they want it to look. It's just what they use to develop the game. But now that we have the official Unreal Engine 4 Zelda game, it looks like Link's Awakening. So it's a bit ironic, and I love it. Yeah,
it's such a Nintendo move to do that.
But that,
like, oh, you want an Unreal Engine game? Okay, but we're gonna make like with a weird Rankin Bass, a little stop motion.
Yeah, and the first official Nintendo game that had Unreal Engine 4, I think, was Yoshi's. What was the Yoshi game?
Woolly World?
Yeah. Wait, was it Woolly World?
Or Crafted World?
Crafted World. That was it.
Yeah.
One of them.
Well, Woolly World might have been as well. But I know on... No, wait. Yeah, it was Yoshi. Yoshi was Unreal Engine 4, I think.
Yeah,
because
again,
I thought I was getting it mixed up with Kirby, but Kirby was made in the same engine as Smash Bros.
No surprise.
Yeah.
It's Sakurai.
Yeah, that's why he was the only one to escape. But anyways, going back, the whole point of that weird tangent thing was with the Zelda game being like a game that they thought, or that a lot of people thought, started out on 3DS and then made its way to Switch. What are some games that you guys would like to see from the 3DS that are on 3DS right now make its way to Switch? Obviously, we have some games already, like, obviously Mario Maker, but that came out to be a sequel because there is the 3DS port of Mario Maker from the Wii U to the 3DS, and then it came to Switch eventually. They did the same thing with the Yoshi game as well, because they had Yoshi and Poochie. Was that his name?
Yeah, Poochie.
Yeah, and then they had the same style of Yoshi game come to the Switch, and then they had what was it? There was another one, I forgot. It was Mario Maker, Yoshi, Smash Bros. What are other 3DS games that came to Switch?
They got ported over, like confirmed ported over. I'm trying to think, because other than those, I'm even looking at my 3DS collection.
Because like
a lot of people thought,
right?
And I was one of them, that the Luigi's Mansion on 3DS was
Dark Moon.
Yeah, was going to be ported over to actually Wii U at the time, but that never happened. But anyways, what are starting with you, JJ, since you are the guest? What are some 3DS games that you would have liked to see?
I mean, some we've even said before. There's quite a few, but I would love, I would hope at some point maybe Nintendo would be open to the idea of talking to third parties about some of the games that were canceled that were supposed to be on 3DS and then bringing them over to Switch. The biggest one for me.
Of any? Oh, you're already going to answer that. Never mind.
Mega Man Legends 3. That's the biggest one. I think that's third party because I felt that was a big deal. Remember, that had a demo that was supposed to get released, and they never did it because of the whole thing with Kenji Inafune and Capcom back then. That was supposed to be a thing, and I would love for that to be a thing on Switch because I feel like it'd be right at home with that, and especially as an exclusive, that would be amazing for a lot of people. But if we're just talking Nintendo first parties like that, to make the jump from 3DS to Switch, I would say Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. I would say Kid Icarus Uprising. I would say, somehow maybe get a Fire Emblem collection, like Fire Emblem Awakening, Fire Emblem Fates, stuff like that on the Nintendo Switch, because those games don't seem like they're that big, and I feel like they could work on Switch, in some form or fashion. I mean, even looking at my 3DS collection now, like glancing at it, I would love to see it again, going back to third parties, I would love to see the Therephim Final Fantasy games get ported over, or at least a version of Thephim Final Fantasy, like a sequel, get made for that with new music and stuff, because that's a different type of experience. And I think you should be able to play that game even on the Switch handheld mode, because again, with the touchscreen and stuff. But there's a lot of different ones. Again, you could even point to other games even now, like Chibi Robo seemed like a game on 3DS that was just kind of left there to die, and like they had him as like a mascot at one point, and he even showed up in a trophy in Smash Brothers. So I would love to see something like that. Yeah, he had an amiibo. Like they made a big deal.
Of all things.
I would love to see something like that. Some of those franchises are just make the jump.
Yeah, Marsupial.
There's other games I want to see get ported over to Switch that are not on 3DS though.
Marsupial in the chat says Kid Icarus Uprising. I have a friend who worked on that game, so that would be really cool to see it come over. I think
that would make sense.
I'm not sure, but I for some reason I feel like Sean, when he was on the podcast, the voice actor for Rivali and the Great Deku Tree. I think when he was on the podcast, he mentioned something about that game. Maybe does he do voices in that game? I don't know.
I don't think so.
You have to look it up.
I don't remember.
He was talking a lot about like JRPGs that he was voicing in at the time, but that's all I really
Octopath and
yeah.
The reason why that would be so good is because again, the control scheme on the 3DS with Kid Icarus Uprising, some people liked it, some people didn't, but that seems like that would be a great twin stick, control game, like a third person or first person, kind of like Splatoon on Switch.
that was one of the first games that they promoted with the second attachable.
Yeah, exactly.
They called it like the boat thing because it made
the Circle Pad Pro.
Yeah,
because I had the big one for my XL at the time.
Yeah. But yeah, those are a bunch of good games. Daniel, I imagine there's a game, a very specific game that you would like to see from the 3DS to the Switch.
I'm wondering what you're thinking of, that you're thinking that I'm thinking of, and if I'm thinking of the same thing that you're thinking that I'm thinking of.
Nintendogs.
But
no,
it's not Nintendo.
Nintendo.
But this could go one of two ways.
Like somebody's thinking about that.
Right? This could go one of two ways, Daniel. Let us know in the chat which game. You can go after Kayla, Daniel. Let us know in the chat which game is it. Let us know in the chat which game am I thinking, Daniel. Which 3DS game?
Which game is Jesse thinking that I'm thinking of?
Exclusive to the 3DS.
Bonus points if you can guess which game I'm thinking that Jesse's thinking I'm thinking of.
Exclusive to 3DS?
Okay, it's my turn?
Yeah.
Kayla, take us away.
So, first off, I know we have an Animal Crossing coming, but I would love if they put New Leaf on there, because New Leaf was so well done and so good, and I wish I could play it in more places.
Don't you got enough of Tom Nook, though? I'm just saying, he's gonna take all your bills already.
Man's after my heart. So that Legend of Starfy, such a good game. Loved that game. When it first came out, I was really offended, and I was like, why would you ever buy me a game that's a Kirby ripoff? Loved it. I have played so many hours of Starfy. And ideally, probably all of the Zelda games, because the reason why I didn't play all of the ones that were on DS is because they were on DS. I'm not going to go out there and buy a game on my DS. No offense, DS, but I think I've only ever bought maybe 3 games for my DS. 4 games, yeah. Animal Crossing, Luigi's Mansion, Dark Moon, which I couldn't play because one of my bumpers was broken. That's it. Oh, and of course, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask.
Oh, yeah.
So those
that should be a collection, honestly.
Yeah, right? those are the only games that I bought. So for me, my big probably every Zelda game ever just needs to come to the Switch. That's it. That's all I got. And I don't think I really cared about a lot of other things on DS that I'd want to see on Switch. So,
Daniel,
Hmm.
Votes are in from the chat.
I don't know why.
Was
They're
your
all saying
game? Was your game
Pikmin,
Hey
and I'm
Pikmin?
offended. I'm
Yeah,
offended.
they think that you wanted Hey Pikmin. Hey
I'm
Pikmin was the
upset.
worst. I can't believe
I'm
that
very
came
upset.
I'm all for
out.
Pikmin, but come on, hey Pikmin.
No,
That's
that's the joke, because we've talked about how a long time ago Miyamoto had the interview where he said it was like whenever they first announced the Nintendo NX, as it was known. There was an interview. It was either the same interview or around the same time that he talked about how Pikmin 4 was like, it was Pikmin 4 and Super Mario Galaxy 3 were either already done or like months away from being done or something like that, and would be coming out soon. And obviously, like, now we have Odyssey and no news about Pikmin 4, but we do have Hey Pikmin. So it's like, was he talking about the fourth Pikmin game being Hey Pikmin? So we the chat and I like to tease Daniel about
shorts.
Hey Pikmin.
I'm just gonna say Pikmin 4 was just the Pikmin shorts, and those were great. and Hey Pikmin never. It never happened.
Yeah. So which 3DS games? What are your second and third 3DS games, since we know your first from the chat? Dennis says bananas. Banana.
Yeah. Just he's repping the bananas. What? Anyways, so first of all, a Zelda collector's pack would be amazing. And since there is, in fact, 3
Who would do it though?
Zelda 3DS games,
Who would
you
Nintendo
gotta
trust to do a
Grezzo.
3DS?
Just put Grezzo on it.
You think they would?
Yeah, they they made them in the first place.
Yeah,
So
but I
that's-
think Ocarina of Time especially would be so important to Nintendo that
They already let
if
Grezzo
Grezzo-
do it.
Yeah, but like an official HD remake.
Sure, they let him do the Link's Awakening.
Yeah, but that's
Sure.
Link's Awakening. You can't make it look worse than it originally did.
Wow, all they got to do is take a collection of, you just take the 3DS version and the Switch, and just take Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and then throw a Link Between Worlds for good measure.
Yeah, but then you're gonna have like the millions of fans being like, "This doesn't look as good as it does on
Why are you
YouTube."
arguing with me, man? Kayla said that Animal Crossing, and no one says a word.
Yep, it's because who doesn't want Animal Crossing? Nintendo would do Animal Crossing right.
They're already giving us a new Animal Crossing. We don't.
I'm telling you, you guys are gonna get broke by Tom Nook by the time this comes out. He's coming for those bells.
You know what? We have waited like 7 years. They could have just put that game on it to start, and we probably would have never asked for another Animal Crossing game after that.
Yeah.
Oh man.
All right. No, Daniel's game is Metroid.
It's Metroid. Of course, it's Metroid.
I thought it was
Federation
Pikmin, but
Force.
okay.
Of course, it's Metroid.
Federation Force.
Oh my god.
No, could it be
Ready,
Federation
just-
Force? Yeah, they're putting F in the chat. So Federation Force.
Oh,
That's
I
what
remember when I
F is
had to review that game. Oh man, it was so terrible.
My theory on Federation Force was because they've explained this for other games before, like Star Fox Adventures started out as like Dinosaur Planet or something, and they were like,
Right.
we don't think
So this
that'll
just
do
started out
too
as
well.
Blast Ball.
Yeah, I think in the same way with Dinosaur Planet, they were like, this looks like a good game, but it looks like it could sell twice as much if we just reskinned it as Star Fox, because we haven't had a Star Fox game in a while.
I can totally see that happening with Metroid Prime 5.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense.
Because there was the interview with Reggie to where after the game was announced at E3, he was like, we know this isn't the Metroid game that fans are wanting, but we're hoping they'll be excited for it anyways, which made you think that since he was saying we know this isn't the one Metroid fans are wanting, that secretly, like, we do know what they do want, and we are also working on that, but we can't announce it yet. And it turns out maybe they were, because of the Metroid 2 remake, Samus Returns or whatever. But anyways, that's the game that Daniel wants in HD. Samus Returns HD, right?
Samus Returns. Yeah, well, yeah, it'd be good.
You know what I
mean,
would want to...
ideally, you'd take like Zero Mission.
Yeah, I was gonna say Metroid Fusion.
Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion, and 4 games in one on one cart. And
Put that on the Super Nintendo
bueno.
Switch Online service. Was it
Yeah.
Super Metroid?
Super Metroid's on there.
Oh, it's already on there. Okay,
Yeah, it was the first thing I did. They announced the online service and played Super Metroid and beat it in 3 hours.
Daniel has a super long but really good review of Super Metroid on his
I do.
YouTube
It's like
channel.
a 25-minute long video, so I'm not going to lie to you guys. If I'm ever having trouble falling asleep, I can just put that video on and put headphones in and just doze right off to the sound of my own voice talking about how good Metroid.
That almost sounds like you're just boring yourself to sleep by watching your 25-minute long video.
Sick,
That
bro.
might
That is, go to bed.
It could be that, or it could just be that. Talking about Metroid puts me in such a zen state.
I know what you're saying, because there'll be a bunch of people that'll send messages about this podcast. That's like, yeah, like, obviously there'll be the things like, yeah, I'll listen to it whenever I'm doing chores or whenever I'm at work or driving to work or working out and stuff. I'll listen to it. But then there's also the people that'll say like, yeah, put it on. I'll put on like the full podcast episodes or the playlist, and I'll just fall asleep listening to it. And like at first it's like, are we that boring? But then it's a compliment that like they get
that I'm invading their dream.
That's it, yeah.
that's it.
And then obviously my answer would just be Zelda games, but give us the 5. The 3DS was so weird with the Zelda games because it had like the most Zelda games ever released for any Nintendo console, but none of it, like, you can still say that it never had an actual new original traditional Zelda game, because we got
Link Between Worlds, dude.
Link Between Worlds, yeah.
But
even though it was based on Link to Us.
That's the thing, though, is like, I look at it as like a reimagining instead of, like, it's not a remake, but it's not a new original game. I look at it as a reimagining because it plays like it's halfway between, and that's kind of what it was whenever they were developing it, because Miyamoto wanted to remake A Link to the Past, and like after they had made the world and everything, Aonuma was like, I want to do something new, and they kind of compromised on it. But yeah, it is technically. But if you look at it the way that I do,
Heroes.
What, Triforce Heroes?
That's what it is. Jesse wants Triforce Heroes on Switch.
Yeah, that's what I said for my Zelda collection. That's what I said, because I looked at it in terms of like to give it a unique spin, because most people would be like, oh, like Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. But I looked at it in terms of how could they make it unique, because if they ever did Ocarina of Time HD, I don't think they would package it in with anything. I think they would look at it in terms of this would sell like 10 million copies on its own. Yeah, like why put it in a package with other games when they could sell it on its own for $60? Like if they sold Link's Awakening for $60, they'll sell Ocarina of Time for $70. But with with my collection, I looked at it in terms of like put Triforce Heroes, a remake or a port of Four Swords Adventures, and like give it, because like all of those games it was kind of difficult to play with people, the multiplayer, especially with Four Swords Adventures, because everyone needed Game Boy Advances. So like if they used it as a way to rectify all of their odd online Zelda behaviors, then it could be a unique Zelda collection that people might have fun playing. Because it's like, if you don't like Triforce Heroes, then you can play Four Swords Adventures online. If you don't like that, I think like Phantom Hourglass and Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks had their weird online minigames and stuff. I don't know about Phantom Hourglass, but I know Spirit Tracks. It did. So like those all had like their odd things. But anyways, what is your third 3DS game, Daniel?
Oh, right.
Yeah, because you had Metroid, Federation Force, and Hey Pikmin. So what's your third.
Also, the
3DS.
chat's going crazy over here trying to figure out how they want to address me as a burrito.
Chubrito.
I
Chublurito.
like it.
John also thinks I'm gonna evolve into a butter tubes.
No, you're
Yeah.
Mrs. Yeto. It goes along with your Yeti thing. Not Yeti. Chewbacca.
Yeah,
Chewbacca.
Chewbacca's not a
Wookiee? He's a
I.
Wookiee.
It's been
Jesse,
a long
we can't be
day.
friends anymore.
I'm sorry. But yeah, because like she looks like she's always
She's a chewapod. Like a menopod.
Chewapod. Yeah, that works.
Do bad.
You're gonna shed into a big
Chukuna,
butterfly
maybe?
someday.
On the topic of me and my Yeti obsession, I almost bought my husband for $40. It was a $40 cardboard standee. He would have stood perfectly behind
Her
me.
husband's Chewbacca, for those who don't know.
Yeah, just
In the
in
chat.
case you're wondering.
She doesn't have a boyfriend and a husband.
Yeah,
She
they're
may.
separate entities.
Or
She-
does she?
yeah.
We don't know.
She has both. One is a disembodied hand that brings.
Well,
and the
Daniel
other is a
apparently
Wookiee.
has a wife and a bunch of husbandos on the internet. Choops has a bunch of
Yeah.
husbandos on the internet as well. So they're out
I
there.
do. No, actually, I have one official internet husband, and the rest of them are children.
Hmm.
Anyways,
Which
Daniel,
is-
what's your third game?
what's your
Yeah.
Lego.
What's your third
That's way more
favorite game?
interesting.
Is it Lego City Undercover?
No, I'm boring. It's Fire Emblem because I.
Which one?
I mean, all of them. My favorite Fire Emblem game is
That's a cheap out. You can't.
it is a cheap out. No, my favorite one is Shadow Dragon, but that's on DS, not 3DS. So since I can't choose that, I'm gonna go with Awakening. Because although you could just put Awakening, what was it? Shadows of Valencia, something
Yeah.
like that. Is that what it's
Yeah.
called? You could put that and then Fates just on, or you could just take a Fates, just put all three on one Switch cart. Because there was like 3 versions of Fates,
Yeah.
wasn't there?
Yeah, there was a Conquest, Birthright, and then
That's
third
right.
one.
The third one that was whatever the third one was called. So you could just
Yeah.
put all 3 of those on one. Just be like the Fire Emblem Fates. It's Nintendo, so they'll just call it like Deluxe, and that's it.
No, they might slap new in front of it.
New Fire Emblem Fates.
That's what
Deluxe.
they-
Fates Collection.
That's what
Cool.
in interviews
Yeah.
for A Link
Definitive
Between
edition.
Worlds, Alan Numa said that was the potential name for A Link Between Worlds.
Oh,
was
New A Link to the
Legend
Past?
New A Legend of Zelda. Well, that could have been what he was
Oh, I
referring
hate
to,
it.
but just New The Legend of Zelda. Because
I
it was
hate
the
it.
first game that changed the way that Zelda fundamentally played, which is what their thoughts were whenever they named New Super Mario Bros. Because
I
that
hate
was
it.
the first one where you didn't have dungeon items, which they brought back for Breath of the Wild, which they could have named it New The Legend of Zelda as well, because it played like a new
Gasp.
Zelda.
But you just shouldn't put new in the title of something because then
no,
you get in this weird space where New Super Mario is like 10 years old.
yeah, And you
now
can
it's
play-
the oldest New Super Mario Bros.
you can play New Super Mario Bros. On the 3DS and the new 3DS, but then you can
Mm.
only play certain games like Xenoblade that doesn't have
Yeah.
new in the title only on the new 3DS.
Mad
Oh,
confusing.
no.
Yeah. So I was joking with Daniel during one of his fabulous streams where he goes through Breath of the Wild, I think you were playing.
Breath of the
Um,
Wild Wednesday.
That they're not going to release a Switch Pro or a Switch 2. It's going to be called the Switch U. So
Ugh.
they're just
You
going to
call
bring
it
that back
Switch
for people.
Who?
No, Switch U.
No, you said
No,
not a
Switch-
Switch Pro,
or
not a
Switch
Switch
2.
2.
Well,
Oh,
Switch.
Either-
They better not call it a
Wow.
Switch.
either,
Yeah, I don't think that's a be good for
either
marketing.
works. It's just going to be
That's
like
good marketing. At least we didn't call it the Switch.
it's going to be an ugly brown color. No,
Oh,
it's going
like
to
the
be yellow and
Pokemon one.
red. It's going to be yellow and red
Yes,
Joy-Con for
what?
Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
oh, bless.
Oh.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Anyways, since we're going on about 2 hours, maybe we can end it.
We should do some questions.
right before the 2 hour mark. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the
but
thing.
We're
So
going